All right. Welcome to the Unnamed Cybersecurity Podcast. I'm Chris. We have Carl. We found him. The rumors of him being kidnapped last week that I started were untrue. Sorry about that.
What is it, Carl?
Well, Chris started him. I can't. Now you're confirmed.
To be fair, Carl, what's the safe word?
Peanut butter.
It's definitely not Carl. Okay. So
actually, the real T-bone is the correct.
Dude,
moving on to something different than that one. That is next. All right. So we're gonna have a little fun today. Carl, right before this, decided to train some people, and he did it on some AI, right? Am I right? You talked about AI a little bit.
Well, we all do this to a degree. I teach a number of public organizations, professional organizations, on cybersecurity awareness. And today I was teaching a bunch of realtors as far as some of the things. We go over a lot of the stuff we talk about here, whether best practices and all of that. But one of the things I said, you know what, with what's been going on, I needed to add a new section on AI. And so what's happened, we just talked about recently that whole, let me see if I can present at the stage. There we go. So a couple of weeks ago, ChatGPT announced a new project called Sora, S-O-R-A, and it's going to get released through the ChatGPT and through Copilot in the next 6 months. From what I've heard, it's going to become a regular thing. And what it is it's basically you're taking the ChatGPT model, or what you might have seen in
it's text to video, right?
Text to video, but I was just trying to think of the text to pictures. There's a group there.
Dolly 3
and stuff like. So now what they're doing is it's the next step is that they can generate videos on a fly based on a text prompt. And some of these are, they had the prompt movie trailer featuring 30-year-old spaceman wearing a knit wool cap. And I mean, some of these pictures are pretty darn amazing with what you're getting here. Okay, that's entertaining. This is, kind of cute. We got the little thing there. But the reason we were going through this and what was is some of these are really hard to detect. I mean, you look at this one here, and unless you study it for a little while because of the blurriness, it looks pretty good, except for, the only thing that was a real giveaway was, it's Danover instead of Range Rover up in the plate. That's about it. The background looks okay. That's pretty much there. There's a woman on a train.
This was the one that I loved. I love this one so
much
because the reflections are sick. Yeah,
the reflections are sick, and they don't have to be perfect. As far as you're allowed there. This is the Anafi Coast, and the only thing that really tricks you here is if you look over to the left, you'll see that there are a bunch of little Anafi coasts that in this world they have 20 Anafi coasts as opposed to the one.
But that's as good as the average CGI you see in movies. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Well, it's good. Now here on this one, and this is a good way of checking something. You think this is an arm, and it turns into a pillow. It's a little disturbing. Watch it again, folks, just in case you see it. She's in pain, of course, because her arm is being
that's weird.
Yeah. We're still getting canceled for this video. Move on to a different one, please.
Yeah, and then but then we got we got a celebration here, and so what you're looking at is that this is only going to get better. But this is the one. Mm-hmm. The reason I shared this with our group was real estate professionals that I was talking to today, and okay, well they're doing a walkthrough here of a museum space. Well, can't this also be a walkthrough of a house if you can do a museum? Mm-hmm. And we were also talking about, Bob, you mentioned when you staged your house, a house didn't have furniture, they basically virtually put furniture in it.
Yep, a lot of the houses you're seeing now are all being virtually staged, and the reflections are spot on.
They're getting the light coming back and all that. That's mm-hmm. really where they're shining. And we're looking at public AI. These are known as GPT models, and the ones that we hear in the news are going to be ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini,
Adobe has. I think they're going to expand Firefly into it.
But there are private GPTs. There are companies that are building ones that they're just keeping in house to use for their own things. They don't have the restrictions that we have, that the public has. And on top of that, you have dark web GPTs that are out there that are just plain out saying, okay, we'll do whatever. We don't care. You just pay us. We illegal. Is it going to hurt people? And you can do a lot of damage, and a lot of damage has been done. As far as this is concerned, it's been
let's talk about that for a second from a target perspective. It's 2024. We have an election year.
Yep.
Perfect example, right?
Yeah. Regardless of what side you're on, you can't. You need to verify the data. And because Americans are no longer getting most of their news from for a lot of reasons, from what we would consider the publicly, news sources, it's much easier to these other sources are basically popping in their information.
Well, I know that OpenAI is trying to put they're doing in some embedded stuff in their images to show that it's AI generated. Now you can remove the tags, but I think that's going to be important as we get into this, is really having some embedded capability that you can't remove that can prove whether or not a video was created by AI.
Well, I think the real problem, again, when you're using tools that have a commercial aspect to them, they can do that. It's going to be the places that can take this technology and harness it privately, whether that's a nation state, whether, as far a number of places that have resources where they certainly can build out a server farm and have enough power. Because let's face it, I don't know what it costs to start one of these GPTs, but I'm sure a couple $1 million, you could probably build out all the technology you need to at least build some small stuff. A little higher? Okay. Chris, okay, but we're talking bigger budgets. And one of the things we're talking about before the meeting today that came out, I'm not going to show this because I don't have copyright. Was Kate Middleton just released a photo of herself, with her family a couple of weeks ago. That became a whole thing, and the Associated Press put a kill order out for this. And regardless of the reason she posted it, on a personal level, I'm not going to judge her for that. But what was concerning to me was this was released by a government agency. She doesn't release anything to the press under her own personal name. She's a public figure. It comes out through Buckingham Palace, all of these things. So they had no issues about putting out an image that had been tampered or altered with, because I guarantee you people are looking at everything that goes out with a very tight eye. So somebody had to sign off and say, this was okay. And yes, she got caught, but I guarantee you there are people taking notes. Okay, where did they catch it? And let's see how we can make it a little better for the next time. Not to put my conspiracy hat on, but
well, Carl, I actually was at a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and they're using AIs to help AIs. So they're taking the images from that are coming out, and from one AI, feeding it back into the other one, and say, "Oh, well, you missed this spot. Go fix it." So you get that continuous feedback.
Yeah, no, honestly, we're kind of early still in this. So in two years, this technology is going to be so ridiculous and so accessible that it's going to be something that
these iPhones, these smartphones, they came out in 2006. So we're now 18 years into them, and how much better have they become? We're only in year 2. It's
we're in incremental upgrade mode at this point.
And it's gone faster than any other technology that we've ever touched.
But it's really easy to, like, Apple's had a neural engine for a while for some AI tasks, right? It's not that far off that we're going to have an AI assistant in our pocket that's going to be real time, that we're going to be able to do things with, that doesn't require to go back to talk to a server like Siri does, or like even Google.
Well, I mean, what all these tools are doing is it's really allowing you to simplify your programming. So you have a voice ability to program a video, which you would never, if you wanted to create an image like ones that are done in DALL-E or I forgot the other one. I'm going to remember it afterwards. But you would have to be a Photoshop expert to paint all that. You literally are writing prompts, and then you're reiterating on prompts. So the skills level is much lower as far as building these. Now all of a sudden you can start to build out scenes that would take, thousands of man hours.
You want fun? Try to get it to do text correctly. and come back to
crazy.
me. It's so bad.
Can't do that
it's
yet.
so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's like, dude, I can spell this perfectly, and like, how do you screw this up? Like, but it's still.
Oh, it does.
Still
It creates facts.
I'm not saying. Sorry.
I mean, it's nowhere near perfect. It's got holes in it, but it's going to get better. I mean, remember the iPhones when they came out, they couldn't cut or paste. They couldn't record a video. So there's definitely going to be all the things that we see right now. They may be doing those. There may be already ones that do it that we just don't see. These again are commercially available. You can get a piece of it for like 20. You can get a better version for like $20 a month on all these platforms. I'm sure there are much higher platforms that we just don't know about yet.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely wear my tinfoil hat, but today I brought it out and shined it up.
It's not tinfoil when it's not a conspiracy theory, though. I mean, the Kate Middleton picture happened.
It really did, yeah.
I'm gonna be doing a webinar in a couple weeks on AI for our customer base, and just trying to talk about how you can help with like your business and things like that. There's some really cool things you can do. It's still infancy, obviously you gotta be careful where you put your data, but it's
a
lot of workflow.
Yeah, it's not going to end everybody's job.
No,
might end some people's jobs, but it's not going to end everybody's job. But it's going to make people more productive. That's the whole point of it right now.
Absolutely.
But let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about another serious news story that affects apparently a whole ton of people, and that's AT&T.
Here
we go again.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, don't say it, Matt. Don't say
it. Well, originally, so they admit in April that it was like 71 million people. They've now lowered that down to like 51 million people. We're still trying to figure out what that is. But that was actually posted on a dark web forum like in 2021. It took them 3 years to validate that it was real. And the worst part about that is Social Security numbers are bad. They had their passcodes. So a lot of people protect their accounts with passcodes. Their passcodes were included in that, and they still don't know how the breach happened. And they said a lot of it happened from 2019 and earlier, but it's like, okay, well, that's what you're saying. How realistic is that? They're being very silent about it. They took way too long to acknowledge it. And I'm sure I'm going to get another letter. I'm up to 9 now in the last 14 months. Let's make it 10, baby. Maybe I can get to 12 by next week. And I'm like, I don't really do business with that many people. So like personal consumer business with very many people. So this is terrifying. But what can we do to protect ourselves if your data is exposed? And I think that's the big key that we want to talk about today.
Well, I think I'm going to be a little bit more. I'm going to pull out that tinfoil hat of mine again. I'm going to make it. Maybe it's tin. Maybe it's not. But my feeling is that it's not if your data is. I would just go by the strong assumption that it already is exposed. Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about AT&T, I don't use it, but I use T-Mobile.
Most of your worst, dude.
Okay.
If any, I mean, I'm assuming everybody here files taxes. A lot of IRS offices have been breached. What's that?
I said I'm supposed to file taxes.
That's another show.
I'm Wesley Snipes, dude. I'm just kidding. IRS, I'm kidding.
I wrote my check yesterday.
It's always a joke, IRS. It's always a joke. I love it.
Yeah. But let's just, it's probably safer to assume that your data is out there. And if you look at even from the fact of the reporting aspect, it took 3 years for them to finally tell you your data is here. So what do you do? My first thing that I do personally, I recommend it to everybody, is to freeze your credit. Mm-hmm. And that is free. It's a little bit of a pain in the neck. But what it does is they cannot run the credit against your account. Even if they have the contact information. So what you do is you go to the big 3 reporting agencies, and you guys, if you have any flavor of this, and you can basically, every reporting agency by law has to give you the ability to freeze your credit, which basically means you write a password. You want to put MFA on that as well, multi-factor authentication or 2-factor authentication. And when you need to go ahead and purchase something where you're going to need a loan, whether that's a car, a house, whatever, you can release your credit to be, open for a couple hours or for a day or two, whatever the term that you would need for a
Can
small
I go into a slightly embarrassing story I did to myself there? I actually had my identity stolen.
Please, this is only this is going to be viewed by
millions and millions of people.
So I think it was 2000 and it should have been like 2018. My credit was stolen from the Equifax breach, and somebody managed to purchase it was like $16,000 of jewelry and credit opened on my name. Yeah, and luckily I was able to recover all of it, but it was a long battle. It was a real pain in the butt, but I learned a lot through that. Carl's knowledge here probably would have saved that from ever happening. After that, I locked my credit, and there might be differences now, but back then I was able to set it up to have them call me if I tried opening credit or if I got a credit check. Mm-hmm. So remember, you lock your credit before you are in a Firestone opening a credit line to get the discount on your new $5,000 tires for your fun vehicle. Because as I was standing there, my phone rang and I said, "Oh, I don't know who that is," and I sent them to voicemail. And they said, "Sir, you're denied," which was pretty embarrassing. And that's all they knew. They didn't know my credit was locked. But I listened to the voicemail hours later, and it was them checking if I was indeed opening an account. So
note that Matt wasn't embarrassed about spending $5,000 on tires. He was embarrassed about getting rejected for spending $5,000.
I like my vehicle toys. Okay, I got priority.
If you guys may have never seen this, but yeah, we recommend that you freeze your credit, right? The problem was Experian up until 2022. I think it was like the end of 2022. You could just bypass their multiple choice questions to just get it re-enabled.
Oh wow!
There's always. We're never going to give you a perfect silver bullet. We're working in a messed up world.
It's mitigating risk with what we got, right?
Hey, we're trying to reduce it. I mean, Chris's favorite thing about is talking about, and I agree with him, is all the problems that companies do to make our data, they don't follow the rules. They don't do anything else. And what we're looking at is, okay, what's realistically the best thing we can do? Because, hey, look, end of all of our meetings, I'm sure every time you talk to a large group of people, they're like, "Man, you scared the crap out of me." And we're not trying to scare anybody. We're trying to educate people.
I think the April 1st, 2004 is a date that will live in infamy, and I don't think people understand why. It was the date that Gmail was launched. It's the date that really shows. Everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke, right? Because they were giving you some data, they were giving you email. If something's free, you're the product.
Absolutely.
Your data is the product. Just understand that. If something is free, you're the product. What really irritates me is when you pay for a product and they still don't take care of your data. They still sell it. They still do things like that with it. Like if you're accepting the fact that, hey, in exchange for my data, I'm getting something for free, that's your decision, 100%. But we still have to have guardrails around what they can do with that data. California's doing a decent job with the California Protection Act. There's a new one that was just introduced in Congress that I really hope will get some steam. It's called the American Data Privacy and Protection Act. Mm-hmm. It's all around minimizing the data they can gather, they can store, and what they can do with it. It's something that's desperately needed in this country. And this is a bipartisan issue. This is something that needs to get done because data brokers are out of control. They're out of control.
We're behind in the U.S. We seem to be behind other nations.
Even the new stuff that's coming in is still behind what Europe is. Mm-hmm. What Europe is having. I don't understand it. Even when we look at Apple and the stuff that they are doing with their trade, the restriction of trade and the monopolies, they're not looking at the App Store. They're not looking at other things to do. And the second one of these major countries or groups says, "Hey, we want to change it." They fold like a deck of cards. They do what we need them to. They immediately capitulated to Europe. They would capitulate to us.
The EU is at the forefront of data privacy laws. It's not even close. And there's some states like Maryland just passed a good one. California, New York obviously have good consumer protection acts, but the problem you have is you have 50 states.
Yeah.
50 different rules. We need one set of rules for data privacy.
And some of what makes the U.S. great makes it complicated to do something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm jealous that in California you can request for a company you used to work with to purge your data. Most other places you can't. I mean, they have your data. I hate that my stuff is sitting around in old systems because we all know things get breached at some point.
Yep. And it's just something that we need to talk about. We'll continue to talk about this But let's switch gears one more time. This is a fun story.
Of old systems.
Yeah, speaking of old systems, this is fun and terrifying. San Francisco is basically Silicon Valley. I mean, yeah, the surrounding area is Silicon Valley, right? So all this tech, all this innovation, and then they finally admit that their San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency runs on 5 1/4-inch floppy drives to control the trains.
For those of you not sure, those are the ones that were actually floppy.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
These things held at least 75, 175 kb. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I see that, and I just think of that old game where we all died from dysentery or crossing the river.
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. Thank you. I see those. I just think of Oregon Trail.
Man. Hey, don't
Matt, you have to see Oregon Trail, the musical. It's a great musical.
That's the thing. You have just rocked.
So Matt, did you actually ever use a floppy drive?
What's that?
Did you ever actually use a floppy drive?
Oh heck yeah! My first system to learn on and play with was an Apple IIe. My dad brought home from work that was not going to suit business needs.
We had a Commodore 64 in middle school, and if we got done with our math homework really fast, we could play it. So of course I'd blast through it just to go play some Commodore 64 and floppy. You know, load times. You know, we complain about load times now. Load times with floppy.
Oh yeah. I can hear it.
I mean, the first computer I had didn't have a hard drive; it had 2 floppies.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good vibrate.
To go back to the story. Oh, what'd you have? A Mac?
I had a Mac with hard drives on it.
Well, okay.
Bob grew up in the nice part of New Jersey.
So this kind of goes back into the story. If you read into this whole San Francisco thing, they're like, we put this in 1998. Okay, 20 to 25 year lifespan. Interesting. Go on. We didn't have hard drives. That's news to me. The hard drives didn't exist in 1998. I think that's news to the rest of the tech industry too, guys. So what did you buy?
Chris, are you saying or did you say that that's what they're running their system on is floppy? Like
they're running a system on floppy. They have to swap floppies out. They're afraid that they can have catastrophic failure because if these floppies wear out, and I don't know what their backup process is, like maybe they have backup copies, like they can have catastrophic failure of their actual train system.
Does no one even makes them anymore? I know the 3.5-inch company made years ago.
If their floppies wear out, for all of you who don't know what a floppy is made of, take a cassette. Remember cassettes and 8-tracks? That is what the floppy is made out of, and we know how durable
magical stardust. Nobody actually understands it anymore.
No, but I'm saying the material-wise. Forget the magic that's in there. You know, that's the structure of the guts of a floppy.
They're very, very sensitive.
Yeah. So specific to what this is, what they said when the train enters the subway portion, the onboard computer connects to the train's control system to run the train automatic mode. That's what's run off the floppies. When they leave the subway part, they actually turn it back into manual operation. So if you've ever been to San Francisco, the BART system, it's a combination of underground and above ground. And they're talking specifically underground is run off of this apparently, but floppies hard drives did exist in 1998, and they're saying that they can't move off this till 2030, and it's going to cost them hundreds. It could cost them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Of course, it'll cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. It's the government, but the other part of it is, I mean, I'm just imagining what the day in the life of these poor BART operators are. Okay, we're going into a tunnel. I got to pull out that little cassette tray and pull out disc A.
You know what I'm picturing? It's like the original Nintendo. Like take it out, like blow it.
No, these are the Nintendo's was cutting edge technology because that came in a plastic.
It was.
So I mean, they would have only dreamed of getting a cartridge, man.
Yeah, the Nintendo cassettes would still be running without an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
This is epic. In 2020. One of the people around this told the San Francisco Chronicle that he learned that the system needed updates in 2007, but also said the lack of upgrades wasn't a looming crisis. Yes, it runs on DOS loaded from 5 1/4-inch floppy drives, but it's still serviceable.
Again, this is why.
What?
Oh, it's not going to get hacked. It's not connected to anything.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've become more of a Reaganite. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. You know, they hired this genius.
So hacking aside, though, it's more about what's it going to cost if something truly fails. And
so here's the thing: if all of the trains that go as a subway are automatically controlled, and that's a requirement, they'd have to switch to manual control. What does that look like? I don't know. The answer: I don't run San Francisco's trains, but I'm sure it's got to be a big issue, right?
It's got to be an issue if they have to do it when they go into a tunnel that they can't. They have to trust a floppy over a regular operator.
Well, probably because the automatic train knows when to stop every time perfectly, right? If you start relying on humans, there's a level of error that can creep in there, and I'm assuming that's part of it.
Do they have a policy when these guys go in to handle the things that they don't wear any metal or have any little magnets clicked onto them? Because that wipes out the. I mean, this is back that is waiting to happen. This Kindle box of a won't take much.
We're 26 years in, dude. I think they kind of figured out the process part. It's more about just wearing it out. Like, what is the impact of this? So to go back to this, I had one story that I told on LinkedIn post on this. I went into a company and they were doing, they had a scanner that connected to a computer through a custom card that was built in 1995. They were still running Windows 95. Now this is like 4 or 5 years ago. This was the quality scanner for all of their parts. Not all their parts, but the ones they were pulling away for quality assurance. I looked at them and I said, do you realize this is a risk, right? He's like, what do you mean? I could just buy another piece of hardware. I'm like, that card is a custom, it's a custom, card running on Windows 95. And you think you're just going to go find one of these off the shelf? Do you realize how much that would probably cost you? And anyway, I ran from that prospect. I couldn't have gotten my car faster.
Machine shops as well. Very specialized measurement devices.
I mean, and there are places where we have older equipment that does. I mean, most submarines are running on Windows XP, but Microsoft has $1 billion contract with the Navy to support that stuff. So they do have the vendor in place. It's not like, but we can't get that stuff anywhere. And nobody, that's not for regular humans.
Yeah, but we're talking about small business that's doing quality for parts. This is a completely different situation.
Even a mid-sized business can't get this stuff.
Yeah.
We're not,
So we can poke fun at. It's just funny. I think the San Francisco thing is funny just because it's Silicon Valley. It's all about it's all about technology, all about innovation, and you have to running off of floppy drives. Really?
Hey, these are at least 10 inches. These
1
are
meg floppy drive.
Yeah.
1 meg.
There you go.
1 meg.
But
that's
anyway, guys, we're running really late.
I think that's a show for today. If you have any comments, questions, you want
to this far through all this ranting, comment below.
Also,
please send all mail to our PO box number. It's also listed at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm gonna get snippets saying hard drive in the middle of this after floppy.
We need to turn this off.
So
read the pure mail if we have any.
If you have a topic you want us to cover, let us know. We're glad that Carl's back. We're glad that Carl's found. Post down below if you think you know where Carl was last week. If you have a photo, please share that as well. And we'll see you next week.
No way.